Can you feel it? That chill in the air, the goosebumps on your flesh triggered by the distant sound of a Pepsi can being freshly cracked open. The terror crawling up your spine can only mean one thing. We've reached season 2 of acclaimed horror series, Baywatch Nights.
The nights will never be the same.
Sometimes I forget that not everyone is as invested in Baywatch as I am, so perhaps I buried the lead in the past assuming everyone knew what we were in for. But in case you weren't aware up until this point, here's the skinny. Baywatch Nights is now The X-Files. For those who want a deeper dive into the origin of Baywatch Nights Season 1, I did an introductory video all about it. But since Season 2 is basically another show, I thought it would be appropriate to make a separate video trying to investigate just what the hell happened at this point. Because, you know, it's insane. For those just catching up, in 1995, around the time they were starting Season 6 of Baywatch, David Hasselhoff ingeniously devised a plan to escape his swim trunks by starring in a remake of Peter Gunn. It turns out they didn't have the rights to that, so instead he made a very similar detective show starring himself, Gregory Allen Williams, and Angie Harmon wrapped in a Baywatch package.
As a lifeguard on the beach, I thought I had my hands full. Then I got involved in this detective agency, and my nights have never been the same.
Despite multiple retools in an attempt to save the show, the ratings were pretty bad, and everyone made fun of it. I maintain what I said in my intro video that Baywatch Nights' first season was not that bad of a detective show, but after watching it through again, I want to apply that to the first half only. Once it became Baywatch Light and they stopped trying to be funny, it just became boring, with the exception of a few outstanding highlights. Part of the reason it was so boring, it turns out, was because their distributor, All American Television, had just appointed David Gerber as president and tasked him with trying to fix the show. Being a producer for such 70s hits as Police Story, that's what he modeled the show after, leaving us with a lot of half-baked, tired stories with no budget and nobody else on board. Apparently the character named Pebbles Runkin was a reference to the Rockford Files, another influence on the show. What I'm getting at is that it was dated on top of being confusing. According to Hasselhoff's autobiography, Don't Hassle the Hoff, ratings were so bad that the stations in LA and New York passed on buying any more episodes. But the company was worried that canceling the show after one season would make it look like Baywatch as a brand was failing, so they decided to renew it for a second season nobody wanted and buy airtime themselves. That's right, they were paying people to please put this on the air. This was a series being made by people who knew it would fail, didn't want to make it, and was in fact being produced simply to save face. The Roger Corman's Fantastic Four for television. Astounding. Here's where things become a little murky for me. It was kind of hard to find info on this, so I'm gonna have to do a little guesswork. I see two paths here, neither of which entirely makes sense to me. One, the producers knew this show wasn't going to get renewed, so they just took the piss out of the whole thing, which wouldn't exactly help the Baywatch brand. Or two, they decided they didn't have anything else to lose and threw out the most insane idea they could think of in a last-ditch attempt to stir up interest. If it was the latter, I still can't imagine how they thought this was gonna go over. Mitch Buchanan fights monsters now.
We have creatures of the week now. We've got the blob, we've got the vampire, we've got the devil, we've got the ghost.
So, okay, here's how I imagine this went down. They all get into their little boardroom, right? Okay, guys, this is not going well. We need to change things up again.
Well, you added the Baywatch, babe, and you see how well that went.
Have I got an idea for you then? What if we emphasize the nights?
Like the nightclub?
No, not the nightclub. Make it about monsters. It'll be spooky, like the X-Files.
You've never steered us wrong, Maurice Hurley.
The nightclub slash bistro? Gone. Garner? Gone. Detective cases? Gone. Mitch and Ryan are now PIs, I think, who investigate the paranormal, in a similar fashion to a little show called The X-Files. In 1996, X-Files was at its peak popularity, so if you're gonna completely change the genre of your show, why not rip off the best? Here's how Hasselhoff pitched it in the Greenville News on July 21, 1996. "We took the concept of Baywatch and changed it to the concept of Nights," he said, "and even the series logo will emphasize Nights over Baywatch." And what is Nights? Nights is Fright Nights. Nights is stuff that we grew up watching as kids. Twilight Zone, Outer Limits. Hasselhoff's team noticed that one of the highest-rated Baywatch episodes was about an alligator, that The Beast was a successful miniseries for NBC last year. They're also coming in on a wave of creep shows, from the established The X-Files to fall network series like Dark Skies and Millennium, although clips from Baywatch Nights seem to be more in the screaming women in go-go boots tradition. I actually watched The X-Files after this concept came up because people said they're going to compare you to The X-Files, Hasselhoff said. "It was great, but it was much more cerebral than our show. I wanted our show to be like hockey, where once it starts, it goes." I don't even know where to begin, so let's break this down. They didn't want to admit they were ripping off The X-Files, so Hasselhoff lists off some anthology shows he knows, and even goes so far as to imply he watched X-Files for the first time because other people said the idea was similar. Okay, bro. And then they named the episode where a mutant alligator is running around on Baywatch as an inspiration, the one that didn't feature anything supernatural and was most certainly rated highly because of the photo shoot subplot. I love that episode, but come on. You could have named actual Baywatch episodes that featured ghosts and aliens. I looked up whatever the hell The Beast was, by the way, and it's a middling miniseries about a giant squid. Neither giant squids nor mutant alligators appeared on Baywatch Nights. But hey, they pulled from a lot of inspirations that year that weren't The X-Files, like Dark Skies, the one-season X-Files ripoff, and Millennium, the X-Files spin-off. Also, it was much more cerebral than our show. I wanted our show to be like hockey, where once it starts, it goes. What the hell are you talking about, man? Just what are you talking about?
That show is too thinky. Ours is more like dumb hockey, somehow.
Later on, of course, everyone admitted to what we already knew. In an interview with the Bristol Bad Film Club in 2015, Hasselhoff said, "We decided to go the supernatural way because we all love The X-Files and investigate weird-ass crimes."
I guess the success of X-Files was happening at the time, and the creative team, Dave and the creative team, felt that they wanted to take it in that direction.
Here's the most telling quote, however, from that Greenville News article. In X-Files, they talk about it, they explain it. We don't really explain as much. I hate it when you take the time to explain. I want something like the movie Alien, where every time you're waiting for the next jump. For some reason only known to Hasselhoff and the Nights team, they hated explaining things. Maybe it was snobbery, maybe they weren't paying very close attention to the film Alien. Except no, they absolutely loved explaining every boring exposition dump detail about the monsters, they just didn't want to explain the show. Because fuck you, that's why. You thought it was puzzling starting up a series about Mitch Buchanan moonlighting as a private detective and then airing the pilot 8 episodes in? Well, try to swallow this pill. Baywatch Nights never, ever, under any circumstances, not even in passing, explains why Mitch is suddenly fighting the supernatural. You heard me. They never explain it. You're just thrown into season 2 and they fight monsters now. They're given their assignments by a mysterious man named Diamant Teague. And yes, indeed, that is Daryl from Charmed. And we never find out who Teague is. Who does he answer to? Is he the government? How did they meet him? Do they even work for him? Is there pay involved? Is he just some crazy man? We will never know. Holy fucking shit. Why? Why would you do this? Why would you not even throw in a, "Ever since we started working for Teague, things have gotten weird"? We don't even see Mitch and Ryan's discovery that the supernatural exists, they just know now. To be fair to Mitch though, he did see a woman abducted by aliens once, and I suppose they did have a psychic friend in season 1. This might be Baywatch Nights' biggest sin. They are asking us to accept a lot here, and there is absolutely nothing to ease us into it. If it was difficult for fans to accept Mitch Buchanan as a PI, they definitely weren't going to accept him as Fox Mulder. It didn't help things that this aired alongside normal Baywatch, as Mitch continued about his day as a lifeguard. And in case you're curious, yes, his second job does come up in some interesting ways. Well, you can probably guess how things went after this popular change-up. On top of everything else, they were $1 million over budget, starting with the first 5 episodes of season 1. So if you thought things were getting cheap then, man oh man, can you feel the lack of money now. They were swiftly cancelled, and Baywatch Nights was quietly swept under the rug and never mentioned again. I think people were being a little unfair to Baywatch Nights when they were starting out, but season 2 was justifiably panned. The question now isn't whether or not the show is bad, it's is the show funny bad? And well, look, Baywatch Nights is hilarious to talk about. I can't emphasize this enough. I love talking about Baywatch Nights. But guys, this is work. This is really, really work. Baywatch Nights X-Files edition is slow, extremely hard to follow, and half-assed. Honestly, the original Baywatch is a more entertaining sit if you're into so bad it's good shows. However, if you are someone who is into trash TV and has a strong stomach for this sort of thing, it is an endlessly fascinating, mind-bendingly misbegotten program. Few television series can claim they had a spin-off so infamous or baffling. It's an incredible thing to have been made. So join me as we analyze every bewildering episode in the continuation of Baywatching Nights. It's going to be quite a journey, and for the second time, nights will never be the same.
Next time on Baywatch Nights,
Mitch and Griff set off to rescue some people from a sunken ship and encounter some sort of monster thing. Pretty spooky, huh, folks?